Colorado Plateau, a rugged, arid land of raised plains and basins, spreads over portions of Colorado, Arizona, Utah, and New Mexico. Here, eons of erosion have peeled back the surface of the earth, revealing pages of the earth's history. In this great land lie some of the most spectacular sights nature has to offer. Endless canyons, towering spires, vast mesas, and gorges beyond compare. Why are these landmarks so close to each other, so different from each other? What forces made each unique? Why did they form here? In 1869, Major John Wesley Powell, a one-armed retired Union Army officer, set out from Green River, Wyoming, with 9 men in 4 pine boats to journey down the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. His incredible adventure-filled journey covered 1,048 miles of the river and lasted 98 days. Along the way, 1 boat was destroyed and 4 men quit, 3 of them never to be seen again. The stories Powell lived to tell, his written accounts of the awe-inspiring scenery that urged him downriver despite the danger and fear of the unknown, sparked a curiosity among other Americans who were determined to see and preserve this great land. The river rolls by us in silent majesty. Powell wrote from his campsite at the end of the journey. Our joy is almost ecstasy. Today, some 5 million people from around the world each share Major Powell's sense of joy and wonder as they visit Grand Canyon National Park. Nowhere else can one find more geological evidence of the Earth's history, its layers revealing secrets of eras past. The Grand Canyon of the Colorado River is truly one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. Within its walls is a story that began some 2 billion years ago and involves 10 major, large-scale geological events. It's an ongoing, endless story written by the movement of the river, constantly carving and shaping the rocks in a continual process of erosion. Havasu Canyon is an oasis that has been described as a paradise. Home to Indians for more than 1,000 years, the area has been inhabited by the Havasupai since before the first Europeans arrived to the area. Havasu Falls, also known as Bridal Veil Falls, spills through a travertine rim into a turquoise pool less than 100 feet below. People come from around the world to experience its beauty. In 1919, the U.S. Congress passed a bill signed by President Woodrow Wilson establishing a territory 56 miles wide as Grand Canyon National Park. Today, the park comprises 1,900 square miles and encompasses more than 277 miles of land along the Colorado River. The rock at the deepest level of the Grand Canyon began as layers of lava deposits and marine sediments about 2 billion years ago. Erosional forces and great upliftings gradually changed mountains into plains and then mountains again. Seas invaded, as did great periods of drought, and the Colorado Plateau buckled upward. About 4 million years ago, the Colorado River began cutting its way through this area, working in concert with wind, frost, and gravity, even as the land continued to rise. The Paiute Indians thought the Grand Canyon was built by a god who wished to create a barrier between the living and the lands beyond death. According to the legend, This god filled the canyon with raging waters, so its inhabitants could not forgo the problems of the present for the comforts of life after death. More than 2 million cubic meters of rock were swept away in the canyon's making. But nobody has yet worked out where this vast quantity of debris went. In winter, a hush comes over the canyon with the arrival of snow and swirling fog. The North Rim averages more than 128 inches of snow each year, with the South Rim receiving less than 65 inches. Less than 1 inch of snow falls yearly in the inner canyon, where winter temperatures can be 20 degrees warmer than on the rims. Cycles of freezing and thawing splinter the rock and accelerate the pace of erosion. Throughout the canyon, nature displays extraordinary works of art. One of these is Mount Hayden, named for Arizona pioneer Charles Trumbull Hayden. Naturally sculpted of sandstone, it sits on a bed of red hermit shale. Until recently, most scientists thought that the canyon formed during the world's last major period of mountain building, that the river established its course and then maintained it by eroding earth at the same rate the earth was being pushed up. However, these movements ended more than 50 million years ago, and no river deposits that old have yet been found downstream from Canyon. This is only one of the many mysteries still locked within these layers of sandstone. The river's course above the canyon was established 30 to 40 million years ago, while the course below was formed less than 9 million years ago. Before then, the river must have followed another, very different path to the sea, one that is yet to be discovered. The canyon's beauty, its changing colors, its grandeur, and its powerful presence cannot be expressed by words alone. The Grand Canyon speaks for itself in a universal language understood by all who come. No other canyon compares to the Grand Canyon, either in overall size or geological importance. The first inhabitants of the Grand Canyon were the Paleo Indians, called the Elephant Hunters, who arrived from Asia at least 11,000 years ago. Others to arrive were the Anasazi, the Havasupai, and the Southern Paiutes. The Navajo Indians arrived about 600 years ago, and today inhabit a reservation bordering the canyon's eastern side. The first Europeans to lay eyes on the wonders of the Grand Canyon were Spanish conquistadors in 1540. They came looking for a great river and fabled 7 cities of gold. Disappointed and unimpressed, however, they left without even honoring the canyon with a name. It was more than 200 years later when the next Spaniard further explored the area. In Spanish, the word Colorado means ruddy or red-colored. The silt in the Colorado River's water gives it a red brick color, prompting its name. During the 16th and 17th centuries, Spanish explorers gave the river many names, translating, for example, to River of Good Guidance, Firebrand River, and the River of Good Hope. Gradually, the river came to be known as Rio Colorado del Norte, or Red River of the North, eventually anglicized to simply the Colorado River. Until the 1850s, the Grand Canyon was often referred to as the Big Canyon. Maps of the time indicate that by 1868, the name Grand Canyon had come into general acceptance. In 1821, control of the Grand Canyon area shifted from Spain to Mexico. During this time, American fur trappers began to frequent the area. One trapping expedition reportedly reached the floor of the canyon's western end in 1828. "20 years later, in 1848, the Grand Canyon became part of the United States, as did the territories of New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, and California, with the signing of the treaty ending the war between Mexico and the United States. The first white man to question the canyon's geologic formations was Dr. John Strong Newberry, who accompanied Lieutenant Joseph Christmas Ives of the U.S. Corps of Topographical Engineers to the Grand Canyon in 1858. Despite the fact that Lieutenant Ives described the canyon as valueless, Newberry wrote extensively of the area, proposing that the Colorado River had caused the canyon's erosion. Interest in the Grand Canyon continued throughout the late 1880s. In 1893, President Benjamin Harrison named the area Grand Canyon Forest Preserve, preventing prospectors and settlers from overtaking and misusing the land. Harrison's efforts laid the groundwork for making the canyon a national park. One of the most interesting formations at the Grand Canyon is Angel's Window on the North Rim. The natural frame was created by years of fracturing, weathering, and the pull of gravity. The Grand Canyon is home to more than 287 species of birds. Also within its greatly varying altitudes are 88 kinds of mammals, 50 types of reptiles, and 8 species of amphibians. In 1903, President Theodore Roosevelt had this to say about the Grand Canyon: "Keep this great wonder of nature as it now is. Leave it as it is. You cannot improve on it, not a bit. The ages have been at work on it, and man can only mar it." What you can do is keep it for your children, your children's children, and for all who come after you, as the one great sight which every American, if he can travel at all, should see. Magnificent Lake Powell, created by the construction of Glen Canyon Dam on the Colorado River, lies in southern Utah. The finger-like branches on the world's second largest man-made lake, 186 miles long, twist their way north of the dam to meander through incredible scenery and create a 1,960-mile shoreline that's longer than the coast of California. Construction of the dam began in the late 1950s and took almost 10 years and more than $270 million to complete. Lake Powell was named for Major John Wesley Powell, first to explore the Colorado River through the canyons in 1869. At full capacity, Lake Powell holds 27 million acre-feet of water. Today, the lake, part of the Glen Canyon National Recreation Area, is a popular spot for water sports, fishing, and sightseeing. Lake Powell's waters pass through dramatic canyons once home to prehistoric cultures. Relics suggest the unforgiving land was inhabited by the Anasazi and Fremont Indians until about 1300 AD. They were followed by the Paiute Indians, who left with the arrival of the Navajo. One of the most famous sites on Lake Powell is Rainbow Bridge, the world's largest known natural bridge. It is held sacred among the Navajo Indians, who describe it as a rainbow turned to stone. Along these craggy shores, one can identify many of the geologic forces that formed so many natural bridges and arches in southern Utah. In places, sandstone that once laid flat has been turned upright on its edge. As water erodes the joints between these now vertical layers, they separate into freestanding fins of rock. These are prime candidates for the formation of arches. An arch forms when soft rock at the base of a fin is pierced by water. Downward pressure from the overlying rock accelerates the formation of an opening. Weathering, wind, and water continue the process until the arch eventually collapses. In 1776, two Spanish missionary explorers, Escalante and Dominguez, crossed the Colorado River at the crossing of the Fathers. Their expedition, beset with hardships, discouraged further exploration of the area for almost 100 years. Until 1869, when John Wesley Powell began his famous journey down the Colorado River. Bryce Canyon lies on the eastern rim of a high plateau in southern Utah. The Paiute Indians describe its colorful, spire-like formations as a place where red rocks stand like men in a bowl-shaped canyon. Ethereal sculptures such as these are the masterpieces of water, ice, and wind, working on the landscape over a period of several million years. Bryce Canyon received its name from two homesteaders, Ebenezer and Mary Bryce, who in 1874 built a home and raised crops there. Ebenezer Bryce described the area that is now Bryce Amphitheater as an awful place to lose a cow. Once this entire area was a large inland sea fed by rivers and streams from surrounding highlands. Sand and silt washed into the sea. Over eons, these materials compacted into many different layers of rock. Then pressure from deep within the Earth's crust forced this entire area up. Ancient seabeds rose to mountainous heights. But some portions of southern Utah were pushed higher than others, forming plateaus. The forces of erosion began their work along the edges of these giant plant forms. Layer after layer surrendered to the forces of wind and water. These rocks are made of fine-grained and soft siltstone, intermingled throughout the thin layers of hard, erosion-resistant shale and sandstone that's even harder. Each rock erodes at a different rate, resulting in the fluted, fanciful creations. From overlooks at Bryce, one can see that this rim of spires is the jagged eastern edge of a massive plateau, one of the 7 massive tables of land that dominate southern Utah. Formations such as Bryce Natural Bridge and Thor's Hammer attest to the sculptural results of eons of erosion. Names like Queen's Garden, Fairyland Canyon, Peekaboo Loop, and Sinking Ship inspire the imagination to take in all that nature has wrought. The spires of the Silent City immortalize an ancient Indian legend telling of how the Great Spirit, unhappy with the evil ways of the world, turned all the wicked people to stone. The air is so clean and clear in this sparsely settled area that one can often see mountains 90 miles away. In 1923, a presidential proclamation established Bryce Canyon National Monument, encompassing approximately 12,000 acres. In 1928, the U.S. Congress changed the name to Bryce Canyon National Park and set aside an area almost 3 times its original size. Between Bryce and Grand Canyon lies Zion National Park. In 1863, Mormon settlers came upon this land and called it God's country. Zion is a true canyon, not the edge of a plateau like Bryce. Here, the Virgin River and its tributaries eroded through sandstone and shale, leaving cliffs that stand 2,000 to 4,000 feet above the river. At places, the canyon is only 18 feet wide. At some points in the canyon, water sometimes comes right out of the cliff. It actually percolates down from the high plateau through many layers of loose rock until it hits a dense layer that it cannot penetrate. Then the water travels laterally until it emerges at the face of a cliff. Embedded in these rocks are traces of life left from ancient oceans, marshes, and bayous where dinosaurs once wallowed. checkerboard mesa was etched millions of years ago by grains of sand blown about in giant dunes. Early Mormon pioneers chose Zion as a religious retreat and special place of reverence. They gave religious names to the rock formations, which they saw as natural temples and cathedrals. Names like the Great White Throne, Angel's Landing, Cathedral Mount, Three Patriarchs, and Pulpit reflect a sense of awe at nature's works throughout Zion's vast expanse. The most notable feature of Zion is the brilliant color of its rocks. Zion is sometimes called Yosemite done in oils and the land of rainbow canyons. These are some of the most brilliantly colored rocks on Earth. The presence of iron causes these fantastic colorations, both here and at Bryce, creating black, brown, red, pink, yellow, even purple and green. The great cliffs of Zion become whiter toward the top, where iron has washed away. Today, the forces of erosion continue their work, perfecting one of nature's greatest masterpieces, begun millions of years ago. A symbol of the American West, Monument Valley stretches across the Navajo Indian Reservation in northeastern Arizona and southeastern Utah. Several hundred miles east of Zion, it is very different from the other deeply eroded parts of the Colorado Plateau. Buttes, mesas, cliffs, arches, and canyons of red sandstone stand as sentinels scattered across the sandy plain. These tall, steep-sided towers of rock were once part of a large flat-topped plateau. As the area was uplifted, streams gradually carved the plateau into smaller mesas covered with hard caprock. Gradually, thunderstorms and wind worked on the exposed sides, reducing the mesas to buttes. Further reduced, the buttes became freestanding spires of rock, called monuments. This arid terrain was made famous in films shot on location here, including director John Ford's 1938 Stagecoach. Names like Elephant Butte, the Big Chair, the Totem Pole, and the Thumb aptly describe the dramatic formations. Against a backdrop of some of the world's most spectacular scenery, it's almost as if Las Vegas drew its inspiration from nature itself. The city's skyline is a panorama influenced by the greatest examples of art and architecture, that which we find in nature. Las Vegas is an enigma, a city of marvels both man-made and natural. Las Vegas is a wonder all its own, yet strangely down to earth. Its glitter and glamour are somehow connected to the desert from which it was born. Together, they create a space like no place on earth. A paradise. A flight of fantasy. A timeless place, ever changing and evolving. Just as the river flows.